The evening sky over Okoga glowed with shades of gold and crimson as the messenger's horse disappeared beyond the dusty road. Silence settled over the village. No one moved. No one spoke. Zara stood exactly where she had been when the words were spoken. The prince has chosen the throne. He has married another woman. He asks that you forget him. The necklace Oche had placed around her neck only weeks before rested against her heart. She slowly lifted it into her trembling hands. No. Her voice was barely a whisper. No. The villagers watched her with sorrow. Old Mama Kanda wiped tears from her eyes. Young children who had once laughed whenever the prince visited now stood quietly beside their mothers. Yakubu stepped closer. Zara. She looked at him with eyes full of disbelief. He promised. Nobody answered. He promised he would come back. Her fingers tightened around the necklace. He promised. The messenger had already gone. There was no one left to question. No explanation. No farewell. Only pain. Without another word, Zara turned and walked toward the river where she and Oche had spent so many evenings together. The path felt longer than ever before. Every tree reminded her of him. Every flower reminded her of his laughter. The river flowed peacefully as though nothing had changed. She knelt beside the water. The necklace reflected in the surface. I don't understand. Tears finally escaped. You promised. The breeze carried only silence. Far away, inside the royal palace, celebration echoed through enormous halls. Royal drums sounded. Trumpets announced the beginning of a new reign. Prince Oche stood motionless beside Princess Isabella. Gold robes covered his shoulders. A heavy crown rested upon his head. The chief smiled. The nobles applauded. The people cheered. Yet the new king heard none of it. His thoughts were somewhere else. In a small village, beside a quiet river, with a young woman whose smile had once made him forget he was born into royalty. The ceremony ended. The guests celebrated late into the evening. Only when the palace corridors became quiet did Oche finally remove the crown. It felt heavier than iron. His trusted servant Obed entered cautiously. Your Majesty. Oche remained facing the window. Has anyone delivered my letter? Obed lowered his head. No, Your Majesty. What happened? The council ordered every messenger traveling toward Okoga to be stopped. Oche slowly turned. What? They said no communication is permitted. His voice became cold. I gave you a direct order. I know, Your Majesty. Then why wasn't it delivered? Obed hesitated. They searched every rider leaving the palace. The letter was taken. Oche closed his eyes. They read it. Yes. The king clenched his fists. I only wanted her to know the truth. I know. I only wanted her to know I never abandoned her. Obed looked away. The council feared exactly that. Earlier that same day, inside the council chamber, Chief Namdi placed Oche's sealed letter upon the large wooden table. It must never reach her. One elder nodded. If the village girl learns the marriage was forced, she may come to the palace. And if she comes? Another chief answered. The kingdom will divide. Chief Namdi looked around the room. The enemies surrounding our borders are already watching. They seek weakness. A scandal involving the king could ignite rebellion. So, what do we do? The oldest chief spoke quietly. We protect the kingdom. And the woman? Silence answered. Finally, another elder said, she must believe he abandoned her. Several chiefs looked uncomfortable. It is cruel. It is necessary. No. It is political. The kingdom comes first. The letter was thrown into the palace fire. Its edges curled. The ink disappeared. The truth turned to smoke. Days passed. Zara waited every morning near the village entrance. Every afternoon, she watched the road. Every evening, she returned home disappointed. Grandmother noticed. You haven't eaten. I'm not hungry. You haven't slept. I will. When he comes. Grandmother sat beside her. My child. He wouldn't leave me. I know. He wouldn't. I know. So, why hasn't he come? The old woman had no answer. She simply wrapped an arm around Zara. Sometimes love offered comfort. Sometimes it offered only silence. Weeks became months. The rainy season arrived. Farmers worked from sunrise until sunset. Life in Okoga continued. Only Zara remained unchanged. Every day she visited the same tree where Oak had promised to return. She still believed. One afternoon Yakubu approached carrying freshly harvested yams. "Help us carry these." She smiled faintly. "I'm coming." They worked together beneath the hot afternoon sun. Suddenly Zara stopped. Her face turned pale. She held her stomach. Yakubu rushed forward. "Zara, I'm fine." But she wasn't. The world spun around her. Everything became blurry. Then darkness. When she opened her eyes, she found herself lying inside grandmother's hut. The village healer sat nearby. Grandmother smiled gently. "You frightened us." "What happened?" "You fainted." "I've never fainted before." The healer chuckled softly. "There is a reason." "What reason?" He looked toward grandmother. The old woman nodded. The healer smiled warmly. "My daughter. You're going to have a child." Everything became still. She couldn't finish. The healer nodded. "Yes. A baby." Tears immediately filled her eyes. Oak's child. Their child. She gently placed both hands over her stomach. For the first time since hearing the messenger's cruel words, she smiled. Only for a moment. Then fear replaced joy. What will happen now? Grandmother held her hands. "We trust God. But the baby deserves a father." Grandmother looked toward the doorway. "So do you." That night Zara sat outside beneath countless stars. She spoke softly into the darkness. "Oak, you don't know. You have no idea." She smiled through tears. "We're going to have a baby." The wind carried her words away. Far beyond mountains, beyond forests, toward a palace where another soul stared at the same sky. King Oak couldn't sleep. Every night, he walked alone through the palace gardens. The moon reminded him of evenings beside the river. The flowers reminded him of Zara. He stopped beside the palace fountain. Queen Isabella approached quietly. "You haven't slept again." He turned. "My queen, you don't have to pretend with me." She stood beside him. "I know this marriage was never your choice." He remained silent. "I also know there is someone else." Oak looked surprised. "How?" "I saw it in your eyes on our wedding day." She smiled sadly. "A woman doesn't need words to recognize a broken heart." "I never wished to hurt you." "You didn't. This kingdom did." The king looked away. "I loved her." Queen Isabella nodded. "I know. I still do." She stared into the water. "I once hoped perhaps one day you might love me." She sighed gently. "But love cannot be commanded." "I am sorry. You owe me no apology." She turned toward him. "Only one promise." "What promise?" "Be a good king." "If your heart cannot belong to me, then let your kindness belong to your people." Oak lowered his head respectfully. "You have my word." Months passed. The kingdom prospered outwardly. Inside the palace, however, invisible battles continued. The council praised Oak's wisdom. His decisions were fair. His leadership strong. Yet every report from villages near Okoga made his heart race. "Any news?" he always asked. "No, Your Majesty." Every time. One afternoon Obed entered carrying confidential reports. "There is something." Oak immediately stood. "What is it?" "A merchant traveled through Okoga. And he says the village girl still wears the necklace." Oak closed his eyes. "Thank God. She has not forgotten." "No." Obed hesitated. "But what?" "He says she believes you abandoned her." The king slowly sat down. His shoulders sank beneath invisible weight. So, the lie succeeded. Back in Okoga, life became more difficult. Some villagers whispered. Others defended her. A few questioned how long she could remain unmarried while carrying a child. Grandmother ignored every rumor. "My granddaughter owes explanations to no one." Yet Zara heard them. Every whisper. Every judgment. One evening she quietly asked, "Grandmother?" "Yes. Do people think I'm foolish?" "No." They pity me. They don't know the truth. Neither do I anymore. Grandmother reached into an old wooden chest. She removed a folded cloth. Inside rested a tiny pair of baby sandals she had woven years earlier. I made these before your mother died. I always hoped one day I'd give them to my great-grandchild. Zara held them carefully. They're beautiful. So is hope. Far away, danger quietly grew inside the palace. Chief Namdi entered the council chamber. The village girl is expecting a child. The room became silent. One elder looked alarmed. Are we certain? Our informants confirmed it. Another chief stood abruptly. If that child is the king's, he could someday claim the throne. The people love stories. They would rally behind such a child. Chief Namdi spoke firmly. We cannot allow uncertainty. What do you propose? We find her. And another long silence. Finally he answered. Bring her to the palace. For protection? He did not answer immediately. Only then did several chiefs understand. One elderly council member struck his staff against the floor. No, I will not support harming an innocent woman. No one spoke of harm. You didn't have to. Chief Namdi's expression hardened. The stability of the kingdom outweighs individual sorrow. The old chief looked at him sadly. That is how kingdoms lose their souls. The next morning, secret riders left the capital. Their destination, Okoga. Days later, grandmother noticed unfamiliar horse tracks near the village. Someone has been watching. Yakubu examined them. These aren't traders. No. They're soldiers. Zara immediately became uneasy. Why would soldiers come here? No one answered. That night dogs barked continuously. Torches flickered beyond distant trees. Grandmother quietly entered Zara's room. Pack only what you need. What? We're leaving. Leaving. Now. But why? I don't trust strangers who arrive after midnight. Zara instinctively placed her hands over her stomach. My baby. Grandmother nodded. We protect the child first. At the same moment, inside the palace, King Oche received devastating news. Your Majesty. Obed hurried inside. The council has sent riders toward Okoga. Oche immediately stood. For what purpose? They refused to tell me. When did they leave? 3 days ago. Without another word, Oche reached for his sword. Obed stared. Your Majesty? Prepare my horse. The council will object. They may object tomorrow. Tonight, I ride. Rain began falling across the kingdom. Thunder rolled over distant hills. Grandmother wrapped food inside cloth bundles. Yakubu saddled 2 horses. The village healer arrived carrying herbs. You'll need these. Zara looked around the little home where she had grown up. Every wall held memories. Every corner reminded her of childhood. I never imagined leaving like this. Grandmother embraced her. Home isn't made of walls. It's made of people. Zara looked down. And now, it's made of the child you're carrying. She gently touched her stomach. I'll protect you. I promise. Outside, lightning flashed. Somewhere beyond the storm, royal riders were approaching from one direction. A desperate king from another. Neither knew how close they already were. The storm swallowed the roads. Fate had begun moving its pieces. And before another sunrise, the lives of Zara, Oche, and their unborn child would change forever. Rain poured from the heavens with such force that the narrow paths leading out of Okoga quickly disappeared beneath muddy water. Lightning split the sky. Thunder echoed across the hills. The storm seemed almost alive, as though nature itself mourned what was about to happen. Grandmother tied the last bundle onto the donkey's back before turning to Zara. Keep your cloak tight. Zara nodded. She instinctively placed both hands over her swollen stomach. The child inside moved gently. It's all right, she whispered. We're going somewhere safe. Grandmother looked toward the forest. We must avoid the main road. Yakubu returned from scouting ahead. They're coming. His breathing was heavy. I counted at least 8 horsemen. Royal soldiers? I couldn't see their banners clearly, but they ride like trained guards. Grandmother wasted no time. Then we leave now." The three disappeared into the darkness, just as another clap of thunder shook the earth. Many miles away, another horse galloped through the rain. King Oak rode, without royal banners, without guards, without ceremony. Only Obed followed close behind. "Your Majesty," Obed shouted over the storm. "We should slow down. We've already lost too much time." Oak urged his horse forward. "I won't lose her too." The wind whipped his cloak behind him. Rain soaked every piece of clothing he wore. None of it mattered. Only one thought filled his mind. Please still be there. Inside the royal council chamber, Chief Namdi watched rain strike the palace windows. A messenger entered hurriedly. "My lord." "What news?" "The king has left the palace." Chief Namdi frowned. "Where?" "We believe." "Toward Okoga." Several elders exchanged worried looks. One spoke quietly. "He knows." Chief Namdi's jaw tightened. "Then make certain our riders arrive first. They have a full day's advantage. They must not fail." Back in the forest, the rain became even heavier. The narrow trail climbed between enormous trees whose branches formed a dark tunnel overhead. Zara stumbled. Yakubu immediately caught her.
"Easy."
"I'm slowing everyone down."
"No."
Grandmother shook her head. "You carry the most precious life among us. We move together." They continued deeper into the forest. Hours passed. No one spoke. Only the sounds of rain and distant thunder accompanied them. Suddenly, the donkey stopped. Its ears twitched nervously. Yakubu raised his hand. "Listen."
"Hoofbeats."
"Not close, but getting closer." Grandmother whispered, "Off the path." They hurried behind thick bushes, just moments before 6 mounted soldiers rode past. Their torches flickered in the darkness. One soldier called out, "Search every trail. The council wants the woman alive." Another answered, "She can't have gone far." The horses disappeared into the rain. Only after several minutes did Yakubu finally breathe again. "They're searching everywhere." Grandmother looked toward Zara. "We cannot stop." Just before dawn, the rain eased slightly. The travelers reached a small cave overlooking a valley. For the first time since leaving Okoga, they rested. Grandmother unpacked roasted yams. "You must eat." "I'm not hungry." "You must." "It's for the baby." Zara smiled weakly. "The baby already has your stubbornness." Grandmother laughed softly.
"No."
"That comes from the father." At the mention of Oak, silence returned. Yakubu quietly walked to the cave entrance, pretending not to hear. After several moments, Zara finally spoke. "Do you think he ever loved me?" Grandmother answered, without hesitation, "I know he did." "Then why?" "The question is not whether he loved you. It's whether he was allowed to." Those words stayed with Zara long after breakfast ended. By midday, King Oak finally reached Okoga. The village looked strangely quiet. Children stopped playing when they saw the stranger. Then recognition spread. "It's him. The prince." "No. The king." Villagers bowed respectfully. Oak quickly dismounted. "Please. No formalities. I need to find Zara." Faces changed immediately. Some looked away. Others lowered their heads. Old Mama Kanda stepped forward. "Your Majesty, where is she?" Tears filled the old woman's eyes. "She left." "When?" "Last night." His heart dropped. "Where?" "We don't know." "Please. You must tell me." Yakubu's younger cousin approached. They went into the forest. "Which direction?" The young man hesitated. Grandmother had warned everyone. "Protect Zara. Whatever happens." "I don't know." Oak looked around. "I am not your enemy." No one answered. The silence itself became an answer. Inside Zara's small house, everything remained exactly as she had left it. Her spinning basket, clay pots, the woven blanket Oak had once admired. Nothing valuable had been taken. Only necessities. He noticed something resting on the windowsill. A wild flower.
Completely dried.
He remembered picking that flower months ago. She had kept it. His eyes closed. "So you never stopped believing." Obed quietly entered. Your Majesty. Oak spoke without turning. The council lied to both of us. Yes. They told her I abandoned her. Yes. They kept every letter. Yes. He slowly turned around. They stole years from our lives. Obed lowered his head. I'm sorry, Oak whispered. So am I. Meanwhile, several miles away, Zara suddenly stopped walking.
Pain shot through her body.
She grabbed a nearby tree. Grandmother rushed to her side. What is it? Another sharp pain came. Zara gasped. She couldn't finish. Grandmother understood immediately.
No.
It can't be yet. Another contraction.
Stronger this time.
Yakubu looked around nervously. We need shelter. There. He pointed toward an old hunter's hut hidden among the trees. They hurried inside. The roof leaked. The walls leaned dangerously. But it was enough. Grandmother spread blankets across the wooden floor. She turned to Yakubu. Boil water. I'll find dry wood. Hurry. Outside, rain continued falling. Inside, Zara fought wave after wave of pain. She gripped grandmother's hand. I'm scared. I know. Will the baby survive? God is with us. Another cry escaped Zara's lips. Hours passed. The storm outside seemed to rise and fall together with her breathing. Grandmother remained calm. You are stronger than you know. I don't feel strong. You don't have to. You only have to keep going. Late that evening, a baby's cry filled the tiny hut.
Loud. Healthy.
Beautiful. Grandmother smiled through tears. A girl. Zara reached out with trembling arms. The tiny child was wrapped carefully in a warm cloth. She had thick black hair, bright eyes, tiny fingers that immediately wrapped around Zara's thumb. Zara began crying. Hello, my little one. You've already survived your first storm. Grandmother kissed the baby's forehead. She has her mother's eyes. Yakubu entered quietly carrying more firewood. He froze, then smiled. She's beautiful. The baby yawned. Everyone laughed softly. For a brief moment, the world forgot war, forgot politics, forgot kings, forgot fear. There was only a mother, a grandmother, a friend, and a newborn child. But peace lasted only minutes. Hoofbeats.
Close.
Very close. Yakubu rushed to the window. They found us. Grandmother immediately wrapped the baby tighter. There isn't time. Yakubu looked toward the back wall. There. A narrow opening hidden behind stacked firewood. It leads into the forest. Grandmother nodded. You and Zara go. And you. I'll stay. No. They're looking for a young woman. Not an old widow. I can delay them. Yakubu shook his head. I'll stay. Grandmother looked at him firmly. You are young. You run faster. You know these woods. You protect them. Yakubu understood. But there is no time. The hoofbeats stopped outside. Voices echoed. Search the hut. Grandmother pushed Zara toward the hidden opening. Go. I can't leave you. You can. You must. Zara embraced her tightly. I love you. And I love you. Grandmother kissed the baby's forehead. May God guide every step you take. The front door burst open. Royal soldiers flooded inside, only to find an old woman, a fire, and silence. Where is she? Grandmother calmly stirred the cooking pot. I've lived alone for years. One soldier searched every corner. Another noticed footprints near the back. They escaped. The captain glared. Which way? Grandmother smiled faintly. Young man. My eyes aren't what they used to be. The captain knew she was lying.
Take her.
Two soldiers grabbed her. She never resisted, only prayed silently.
Keep them safe.
Far away, hidden beneath towering trees, Zara clutched her newborn close as she ran. Every cry from the baby pierced her heart. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yakubu led the way. We're almost there. Where? The old missionary road. No soldiers use it. Behind them, torches appeared through the rain. The chase had begun again. And somewhere else in the forest, King Oak had also entered the wilderness.
Searching.
Calling. Zara. His voice echoed through the trees. She stopped. Her heart nearly burst. Oak. She whispered his name. Yakubu grabbed her arm.
No.
It could be a trap. She listened again. The voice came once more. Zara. Tears streamed down her face. She knew that voice. She knew every note of it. For one impossible moment, she wanted to run toward it, to fall into his arms, to show him their daughter. But then another sound reached her. More horses, more soldiers,
More shouting.
the opportunity vanished. Yakubu pulled gently. We have to go. With tears in her eyes, Zara turned away, unaware that less than 200 yards separated her from the man she still loved. Separated only by darkness, the storm, and fate. The rain finally stopped. Morning sunlight filtered through the towering trees, leaving thousands of tiny drops sparkling on every leaf. The forest seemed peaceful again. Birds returned to their songs. The river resumed its gentle flow. Only the footprints pressed into the wet earth told the story of the night's desperate escape. King Oak dismounted beside those tracks. He crouched low. They passed here. Obed joined him. There are 3 sets of footprints. The old woman, the young man, and he paused. Zara. His fingers brushed the soft impression left by a smaller footprint. Then he noticed something else. Tiny marks, not footprints. Drops of water mixed with cloth fibers. Nearby lay a small strip of white linen caught on a thorn bush. Oak carefully lifted it. It was soft. Far too soft to belong to ordinary clothing. He frowned. This looks like... Obed examined it. A baby's wrapping. The king stared at the cloth. A baby. Neither man spoke for several moments. Finally Oak whispered. Could it be? Hope and fear battled within him. He looked toward the endless forest. Zara. Several miles away, grandmother sat calmly beneath a large tree with her hands tied. The soldiers had made camp nearby. Their captain paced back and forth. You are protecting her. Grandmother smiled gently. I protect everyone I love. Where did she go? I don't know. You expect me to believe that? I expect you to believe whatever your heart allows. The captain sighed impatiently. You are making this difficult. Grandmother looked directly into his eyes.
No.
The people who sent you have made it difficult. One younger soldier shifted uneasily. He remembered his own grandmother. The captain noticed. Do not let her words weaken you. The young soldier lowered his eyes. Still, something about the old woman's calm courage unsettled him. Far ahead, Zara's strength was fading. She had barely slept. The baby rested peacefully against her chest. Every few minutes Zara checked to be sure the little girl was still breathing. Grandmother had shown her how to wrap the baby tightly to keep her warm. Yakubu led the way through a narrow mountain path. We'll rest soon. I can keep walking. You've been saying that since yesterday. She smiled weakly. I don't want to stop. If we stop, they'll find us. Yakubu looked around. They're farther behind now. Still. We need food. We need water. And your daughter needs her mother healthy. Zara finally nodded. Only for a little while. By afternoon they reached a tiny clearing. An elderly couple worked quietly in a vegetable garden beside a small wooden chapel. A simple cross stood near the entrance. The old man looked up first. Travelers. His wife immediately noticed Zara carrying the baby. You look exhausted. Yakubu stepped forward cautiously. We mean no harm. Please. We only need a little water. The elderly woman smiled warmly. Everyone who arrives hungry receives food. And everyone who arrives tired receives rest. Zara felt tears sting her eyes. Kindness always seemed to appear exactly when hope began fading. Inside the little house, the elderly woman carefully examined the newborn. What a beautiful child. How old? 1 day. The woman's eyes widened. You gave birth yesterday? Zara nodded. In the forest, the elderly couple exchanged astonished glances. You are stronger than most warriors I've known, the old man said softly. Zara smiled. I didn't feel strong. You didn't need to. You only needed love. That evening, as the baby slept peacefully beside the fireplace, the elderly woman sat beside Zara. Have you chosen her name? Zara looked at her daughter. Not yet. The baby opened her tiny eyes. For a moment they seemed unusually calm, as if quietly observing the world she had just entered. My mother always said, a name should carry a blessing. The elderly woman nodded. What blessing do you wish for her? Zara thought for a long time. Then she smiled. I want her to remember that hope survives even the darkest storm, and that love can never truly be destroyed. She gently stroked the baby's tiny hand. Her name will be Enekole. The old couple smiled. It is a beautiful name. Zara kissed her daughter's forehead. Welcome to the world, my little Enekole. Meanwhile, King Oak reached the abandoned hunter's hut. The fire had long gone cold. He stepped inside slowly. Everything was quiet, until his eyes found something lying near the fireplace. A tiny woven sandal. Handmade. Far too small for any adult. He picked it up carefully. Obed immediately recognized its meaning. A child was here. Oak's heart pounded. The linen. The tiny footprints. Now this. He sat slowly upon the rough wooden bench. His hands trembled. If she had my child. His voice broke. I wasn't there. Obed remained silent. Some grief could not be comforted with words. That night Oak could not sleep. He stared into the dying fire. 1,000 questions filled his mind. Was the baby alive? Was Zara safe? Did she hate him? Would she ever allow him to explain? The thought that she had endured childbirth alone pierced him more deeply than any sword ever could. He whispered into the darkness. I'm sorry. So very sorry. Back at the palace, Chief Namdi received disturbing news. The king continues searching. He found evidence. What evidence? A baby. The chief's face hardened. So the rumors were true. Another elder asked quietly, what now? Namdi answered without hesitation. Expand the search. If the child exists, we must find them before the king does. One elderly council member rose from his chair. Enough. They are innocent. Chief Namdi looked at him coldly. Innocence does not prevent civil war.
No.
The old chief replied. But injustice begins it. The chamber fell silent. At sunrise, the missionary couple prepared breakfast. Fresh bread, warm milk, honey. The smell filled the little cottage. For the first time in many weeks, Zara felt almost peaceful. The old woman gently rocked baby Enekole. She hardly cries. She seems content. Zara smiled. She likes hearing voices. The elderly man entered carrying fresh vegetables. Then his expression changed. He looked through the window. Horses. Yakubu immediately stood. Soldiers? The old man nodded. They're questioning everyone. They'll reach us within the hour. Zara instinctively held her daughter close. I can't endanger you. You've already helped us too much. The elderly woman shook her head. No life is ever a burden. But you must keep moving. The old man unfolded a rough map. There is an old shepherd's trail. Almost no one uses it. It leads into the mountains. Yakubu studied it carefully. This could work. Before leaving, Zara embraced the elderly couple. I don't even know your names. The old woman smiled. Names matter less than kindness. If one day your daughter asks whether strangers can become family, tell her yes. Tears filled Zara's eyes. I will never forget you. The elderly man placed a small loaf of bread into her bag. For the journey. And remember, hope often arrives disguised as ordinary people. As Zara disappeared along the mountain trail, royal soldiers rode into the settlement. The captain questioned everyone. Have you seen a young woman carrying a baby? The old missionary looked him directly in the eye. We've welcomed many travelers. I cannot remember every face. The captain searched the property.
He found nothing.
Because by then, Zara and little Enekole were already climbing toward the mountains. Hours later, King Oak arrived at the same settlement. The elderly couple immediately sensed the difference between this rider and the soldiers who had come before him. His first words were not commands. They were a plea. Please. I'm looking for someone. The old woman looked carefully into his eyes. You love her. More than my own life. And the child. Oak froze. There is truly a child? The elderly couple realized they had said too much. The old man answered gently, I believe. You have already guessed. Tears welled in Oak's eyes. I have a daughter. The words barely escaped his lips. A daughter. He had never even held her. Never heard her cry. Never seen her face. Yet somehow, in that moment, he already loved her with all his heart. The missionary quietly pointed toward the distant mountains. They left before sunrise. They're trying to protect the baby. Oak looked toward the peaks rising against the morning sky. They're still close. He mounted his horse. Before leaving, the elderly woman called after him. If you find them, tell her the truth. Do not wait another day. Oak nodded solemnly. I won't. Then he rode toward the mountains, unaware that Zara, carrying little Enekole in her arms, had already disappeared into the winding paths above. One climbed with hope. The other climbed with regret. And between them stood the mountains, and the lies that still separated a family destined to be reunited many years later. The mountain trail grew steeper with every step. Cold wind swept across the cliffs, carrying the scent of pine trees and fresh rain. Zara pulled her cloak tighter around baby Enekole. The little girl slept peacefully against her mother's chest, wrapped securely in warm blankets. Yakubu walked several steps ahead, carefully watching the narrow path. We're almost there. You've said that 3 times, Zara replied with a tired smile. This time I mean it. She laughed softly. It was the first genuine laugh she had managed since leaving Okoga. Even in sorrow, small moments of joy still found their way into the human heart. As they rounded the next bend, several stone cottages appeared among the hills. Smoke rose lazily from their chimneys. Goats grazed peacefully on the slopes. Children chased one another between the houses. It was a tiny shepherd village, hidden so deeply within the mountains that few travelers ever discovered it. An elderly shepherd noticed the strangers first. You've come a long way. Yakubu bowed respectfully. We seek only shelter for a mother and her child. The old man looked at Zara. Her exhausted face told him everything words could not. He smiled gently. Then you've arrived at the right place. The villagers welcomed them without questions. One woman hurried to prepare warm soup. Another brought fresh blankets. A young mother offered a small wooden cradle that her own son had recently outgrown. We won't need it for another year, she said with a smile. It should comfort your little one. Zara ran her fingers along the smooth wood. I don't know how to thank you. The woman shook her head. When my husband was injured last winter, strangers helped us. Kindness always returns. Those words reminded Zara of her own mother. She closed her eyes for a brief moment. Mother, I hope I'm making you proud. That evening the entire village gathered around a large fire. The shepherds shared simple food. Fresh bread, goat's milk, roasted vegetables. Someone played a wooden flute. Children laughed as sparks floated into the night sky. For a few precious hours, fear loosened its grip. Little Enekole slept soundly inside the cradle. The village women quietly admired her. She's beautiful. Look at those tiny hands. She smiles in her sleep. An elderly grandmother chuckled. They say babies smile when angels whisper to them. Everyone smiled. Zara gently looked toward her daughter. I hope she always has reasons to smile. Far below the mountains, King Oak reached the final crossroads described by the missionary couple. The trail divided into 3 narrow paths. One climbed toward the eastern cliffs. Another disappeared into thick forest. The third wound through rocky valleys. Obed studied the ground carefully. The rain washed away most of the tracks. Oak dismounted. There must be something. He searched patiently. Broken twigs. Small footprints. A piece of blue thread caught on a thorn. Then, tiny hoof prints. A donkey. They came this way. Hope returned. He mounted his horse again. Let's go. Back in the capital, Queen Isabella stood quietly inside the royal library. She watched King Oche from across the room. For weeks, she had seen the same sorrow in his eyes. He smiled for his people. He ruled with fairness. Yet every evening he disappeared alone. Something weighed heavily upon him. She finally approached. "Your Majesty." He looked up from the scrolls spread across his desk. "Isabella, you have been searching for someone." He remained silent. She continued gently. "I know it is the woman you loved." He lowered his gaze. "Yes. And there is more." Again, he hesitated. Finally, he spoke. "I believe. I have a daughter." The room became completely still. Queen Isabella slowly sat beside him. "A daughter?" He nodded. "I wasn't even there when she was born." Pain filled his voice. "They stole that from me." She reached for one of the unopened letters lying on his desk. "Who?" "The council. They intercepted every message. They convinced her I abandoned her. They told me she had forgotten me." Queen Isabella closed her eyes. "So both of you became prisoners of other people's decisions." Oche nodded. "I don't know where she is, but I will never stop looking." Meanwhile, inside the palace prison, Grandmother sat quietly upon a wooden bench. Her hands were no longer tied. The younger guard brought her food each evening. He had begun to admire her courage. "Please eat." She smiled. "Thank you, son." He looked around to ensure no one was listening. "Why won't you tell them where she is?" Grandmother answered calmly. "Because some promises are worth more than freedom." The young guard sighed. "I have a daughter. She's 5. I understand." Grandmother smiled warmly. "Then raise her to choose kindness. It will make her stronger than any sword." The guard nodded thoughtfully. Several days later, King Oche finally reached the mountain village. The shepherds recognized him immediately. They bowed respectfully. He quickly raised his hand. "Please. I seek only answers." The elderly shepherd invited him inside. "You arrived 2 days too late." Oche closed his eyes. So close. They left before sunrise. Were they safe? They were tired, but safe. And he hesitated. The baby, the old shepherd smiled. A healthy little girl. Strong lungs. She cried loudly enough to wake half the village. Oche laughed through tears. "That sounds like her." The shepherd looked surprised. "You've never seen her."
No.
"But somehow, I already know her." The shepherd handed him something wrapped in cloth. "We found this after they left." Oche carefully unfolded it. Inside rested a tiny wooden toy carved into the shape of a bird. It belonged to our son. He insisted the little girl should have it. But they left before he woke. "Perhaps one day, you'll give it to her." Oche held the little bird carefully. "I will. I promise." Back in the capital, Chief Namdi became increasingly uneasy. The king continues searching. One of his spies nodded. He has questioned villagers across 3 provinces. Another added, "People are beginning to ask questions." Namdi frowned. "Then we silence the questions." An elderly chief struck his staff against the floor. "You have already caused enough suffering." Namdi answered sharply. "I protected the kingdom."
No.
The old chief replied. "You protected your own fear." Several council members quietly nodded. The room was changing. Voices that had once remained silent were beginning to speak. That same evening, Obed entered the royal archives. Boxes of old correspondence lined the shelves. Dust covered forgotten records. For hours he searched. Finally, he discovered a hidden chest marked with the royal seal. Inside were dozens of unopened letters. Every one addressed to Zara. Every one written by Oche. None had ever left the palace. Obed's hands trembled. He hurried to the king. Oche slowly opened the first letter. "My beloved Zara, if this letter reaches you, know that every word spoken by others is false. I have not abandoned you." He could read no further. Tears blurred the ink. Letter after letter told the same story. Promises. Explanations. Hope. Everyone had been stolen. He whispered. She never had the chance to know. Obed placed a hand over his heart. "No," She never knew. The following morning, King Oak summoned several trusted officials. Quietly, without informing the council, the men responsible for intercepting royal correspondence removed them from office. No anger filled his voice, only certainty. They betrayed not only their king, but justice itself. As you command, one by one, dishonest officials lost their positions. The truth had begun reclaiming its place. High in the mountains, Zara watched little Enekole sleeping peacefully inside the wooden cradle. The baby had grown stronger each day. Her tiny fingers often wrapped around Zara's thumb. Whenever she smiled, every burden seemed lighter. Yakubu entered carrying fresh firewood. The shepherds say winter will arrive early. We should stay until spring. Zara nodded. For her sake. She looked lovingly at her daughter. There is something I've decided. Yakubu sat beside her. What is it? When Enekole asks about her father, I won't fill her heart with anger. Yakubu listened quietly. I'll tell her he was a good man. That circumstances separated us. And when she's old enough to understand, I'll tell her the whole truth. Yakubu smiled. She'll be proud of you. I hope. She'll be proud of both of us. That night, beneath a sky filled with countless stars, two people separated by mountains looked toward the same moon. In the mountain village, Zara gently rocked Enekole to sleep. May God watch over you, and over your father, wherever he may be. Far away in the royal palace, King Oak held the tiny wooden bird in his hand. He looked toward the moon shining above the mountains. If you're out there, sleep peacefully, little daughter. I will find you. Neither knew that the same moon carried both of their prayers across the silent kingdom. And somewhere between those mountains and the palace, destiny waited patiently for the day when truth would finally bring a broken family back together. Winter settled gently over the mountains. The peaks shimmered beneath fresh snow, while smoke curled from the chimneys of the shepherds' cottages. Inside one of the humble homes, a small child laughed. Her laughter echoed like music through the room. Little Enekole had just learned to take her first steps. She stretched both tiny arms toward Zara. Mama. Zara knelt with open arms. Come to me. The little girl wobbled uncertainly. One step, then another. She nearly lost her balance before regaining it with determination. The shepherd women watched from the doorway. She's stubborn. Another smiled.
No.
She's brave. With one final step, Enekole reached her mother. Zara gathered her into a warm embrace. You did it. The child clapped her tiny hands and laughed. That laughter healed something inside Zara that sorrow had nearly destroyed. Life in the mountain village followed the rhythm of the seasons. Spring brought green valleys covered in wildflowers. Summer filled the hills with grazing sheep. Autumn painted the forests gold. Through every season, Enekole grew stronger. She learned to greet everyone with a smile. She shared her bread with children who had less. Whenever an elderly shepherd carried heavy bundles, she insisted on helping, despite being far too small. One afternoon, Zara watched her daughter hand her favorite apple to an old widow. But that's your only apple, Zara said gently. Enekole smiled. She looked hungrier than me. The widow wiped tears from her eyes. God bless you, little one. Later that evening, Zara kissed her daughter's forehead. Who taught you to be so kind? Enekole thought carefully. You did. Zara smiled. My mother taught me. The little girl looked toward the sky. Then Grandma must have been very nice too. She was the kindest person I ever knew. Far away, the kingdom itself was changing. King Oak had become known throughout the land as a ruler who listened before speaking. Every month he left the palace to visit villages without great ceremony. He walked through marketplaces. He spoke with farmers. He listened to fishermen. The people admired that their king never considered himself above them. Many believed these journeys reflected wisdom gained through experience. Only Oak knew the truth. Every road reminded him of Zara. Every village offered the faint possibility that one day he might hear news of her. Even after all these years, he never stopped searching. Queen Isabella often accompanied him. Their marriage had grown into something unexpected. Not romance, but deep respect. One afternoon, as they rested beneath a giant baobab tree after meeting village elders, Isabella smiled. You've changed. Oak looked up from the children playing nearby. For better? For much better. What makes you say that? You no longer rule from the throne. You rule from among the people. He smiled faintly. Someone taught me that long ago. Zara. He nodded. She believed a ruler should hear ordinary voices before making extraordinary decisions. And she was right. Back in the capital, the royal archives continued revealing forgotten truths. Obed spent months reviewing old records. One evening, he rushed into the king's study carrying another bundle of documents. Your Majesty, what have you found? A list. Oak unfolded the faded parchment. It recorded every royal messenger who had been intercepted during the first year of his reign. Besides several names appeared the same signature. Chief Namdi. Oak's expression darkened. So, it was never one mistake. Obed shook his head. It was planned from the beginning. Every letter, every messenger, every attempt to reach Zara. Carefully stopped. Carefully hidden. The king folded the document slowly. The truth always leaves footprints. And eventually, someone follows them. Not everyone welcomed these discoveries. Chief Namdi watched his influence disappear little by little. Officials loyal to him had been dismissed. Royal judges now answered directly to the king. The people praised Oak's fairness more than ever before. The old chief knew his control was slipping away. One loyal supporter whispered, "The king no longer seeks your counsel." Namdi stared silently through the palace window. He is becoming dangerous. The man looked surprised. Dangerous? He has begun asking the wrong questions. What will you do? Namdi answered quietly. The same thing I've always done. I'll protect the kingdom. Whether he truly believed those words anymore, even he no longer knew. Months later, grandmother finally walked free. No charges had ever been proven against her. The young prison guard who had often spoken with her escorted her to the palace gate. I wish you peace. Grandmother smiled warmly. And I wish your daughter a father who always listens to her. The guard laughed softly. I'll remember that. She looked toward the distant mountains. Somewhere beyond them, Zara waited. Or perhaps she had already moved again. Only God knew. Grandmother adjusted her walking stick. I've waited long enough. She began the long journey, one village at a time, one prayer at a time, trusting that love would eventually lead her where maps could not. High in the mountains, Enekole had reached her 5th birthday. The shepherd children decorated the meadow with wildflowers. Someone baked a small honey cake. Another family carved a wooden whistle as a gift. There was no wealth, only affection. As evening approached, Zara lit 5 tiny candles. What should I wish for? Enekole asked. Zara smiled. Whatever your heart desires. The little girl closed her eyes tightly. After blowing out the candles, she whispered, I wished for Grandpa. Zara blinked. Grandpa. I already have Mama. I want another person to love. Zara embraced her. You have many people who love you. I know, but I think someone else is missing. For a brief moment, Zara couldn't speak. Children often sense truths adults try to hide. That same year, King Oak established a new tradition. Every harvest season, the palace would host a great festival open to every village in the kingdom. No family should feel distant from the crown, he declared. Queen Isabella smiled proudly. This kingdom belongs to all its people. Preparations lasted for months. Musicians practiced. Farmers gathered their finest crops. Craftsmen carved beautiful ornaments. Word spread across every province. Even the mountain villages received invitations. The shepherd elder looked at Zara. We should go. She hesitated. There will be many people. Exactly. No one will notice. One more family. Enekole clapped excitedly. I've never seen a festival. Zara looked at her daughter's hopeful face. Perhaps, just this once, she could give her child a happy memory. All right, we'll go. The capital overflowed with visitors. Bright fabrics decorated every street. Children laughed as dancers performed in the squares. Musicians played drums that echoed across the city. Enekole stared wide-eyed at everything around her. So many people, so many colors. She ran from one craft stall to another, always holding Zara's hand. "Slow down," Zara laughed. "We have all day." At that very moment, King Oak walked through another section of the festival with Queen Isabella. Unlike many rulers, he wore only simple ceremonial clothing and spoke freely with merchants and villagers. Children approached without fear. Old women blessed him. Farmers thanked him for new irrigation canals. The king greeted each person with the same warmth. Only a few streets away, his daughter laughed while chasing brightly colored butterflies. Near sunset, Enekole spotted a wooden toy bird hanging from a craftsman's stall. "Mama, look, it looks like it's flying." Zara smiled. "It is beautiful." The old craftsman noticed the little girl's fascination. "You may hold it." Enekole carefully took the toy into her hands. Just then, another man stopped at the same stall from the opposite side. King Oak. He had been searching for a gift for children visiting the palace orphanage. The craftsman bowed. "Your Majesty." Enekole instinctively looked toward the voice. But before she could see the king clearly, another group of visitors stepped between them. The crowd surged. Musicians began marching past. Drums thundered. Dancers filled the narrow street. Yakubu gently guided Zara away. "The crowd is becoming too large. Let's take another road." She nodded. Still holding Enekole's hand, she disappeared into the sea of people. Only moments later, the crowd cleared. Oak glanced around absent-mindedly. For the briefest instant, he thought he saw a little girl with familiar dark eyes. But she was already gone. He smiled sadly. "Strange." For a moment, she reminded me of someone. Above the festival, the evening bells rang. Father and daughter had stood no more than 20 paces apart. Yet neither knew. Fate had delayed their meeting once again. Not because they were meant to remain apart forever, but because some reunions arrive only when every heart is finally ready.